Yep.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Mary Ellen, and I do a whole lot of different things, including I'm on the steering group of DPAC. DPAC was formed in 2010 when the Tories, aided and abetted by the Lib Dems, came to power and started a program of austerity, cuts, sanctions, and closures of local support groups and charity funding and stuff. And as a result, disabled people started to be hit really hard to the point of disabled people were dying. Um, and it felt very much like what the Nazis did. They started their attacks on disabled people, knowing that disabled people are the most marginalized, the least seen, the least heard, and so no one would notice or care what was happening to them. And so the gas chambers that were used by the Nazis were first honed and used on disabled people. And all the experimentation was started on disabled people. And so we recognized what was happening. And so DPAC was formed, Disabled People Against Cuts, was formed by a small group of disabled people. And at the center of our logo, there's a black triangle. And the black triangle is the black triangle that the Nazis used to label disabled people. They used a set of triangles, different colors, for different people, and for different ones for gay people, for disabled people, for Jews, for Poles, trans people, etc. And the triangle they used for disabled people was black triangle. And so at the center of our logo is that black triangle to say what it felt like to us as disabled people. And so that was 2010. In 2011, the government received a freedom of information request from disabled people, asking them how many people have died as a result of your cuts. Let's just take one aspect of your cuts, just your fit to work test. Just your fit to work test. How many people, after being told that they were fit to work, were dead within 6 weeks of that decision? Not 6 weeks not in a day, six months, not the 2 years you've been in power. Just 6 weeks of that decision. How many were dead? And they gave us the figure of 10,600. 10,600 for just 10 months of 2011, so not even a full year. They gave us the figure of 10,600, and that figure shocked me to the core and is seared in my brain. I cannot forget that figure. When the government is admitting that their policies are resulting in people dying, when the government have admitted that it's 10,600 over a 10-month period, and it's not in the news. The BBC have not reported on it, the Telegraph have not reported on it, nobody's reported on the fact that the government is admitting that their policies are actually killing people. And these were people who might already have been dying, but their last 6 weeks, instead of being able to deal with their own affairs and getting ready for that death, that last 6 weeks of their life was made intolerable, fighting for even a penny to live on, to feed themselves. Yeah, they didn't have the dignity in death that they needed, the dignity in life that they needed to be able to put their affairs in order. Or their last 6 weeks was left fighting for their lives. These were people who weren't expected to die, but they died prematurely because their conditions plummeted without the food and medicine and safety and dignity and independence that they needed. These were people who were so distraught by what was being done to them and so unable to cope that they committed suicide. But whichever way you look at it, their policies resulted in these people's deaths. 10,600 people, and it wasn't reported in the mainstream media. And this is what got me out of my comfort zone, because I'm not comfortable coming out and talking to people. Yeah, I was never a speaker. I was always a wallflower. Sat in the back, listened. I'm a good listener, but I'm not a good speaker. But I felt someone needs to say something, and I was like, I'm someone. And then I thought, if someone knows the truth, they need to tell the truth. The truth needs to be heard. The papers are not telling us, the BBC is not telling us. The truth needs to be heard, and it needs to be seen, it needs to be told. And I thought, well, I know the truth, and if I don't say something, I am joining that conspiracy of silence. I am colluding with them to continue doing what they're doing. Yeah, committing murder in plain sight.
Thank you so much. I love that.
And so I had to step out of my comfort zone. The first couple of talks I did, I had my friend Penny beside me holding my hand, telling me you can do this. And I forced myself, and every day I'm still having to force myself to do that because this does not come naturally to me. But I have to do it. But I can speak to you. I can never speak to the people you will speak to. You can never speak to the people they will speak to. But if each of us takes on that responsibility of telling the truth, shining our light on these crimes that are being committed against disabled people, then and only then have we really got a chance of stopping disabled people against the cuts. Just a handful of disabled people growing numbers. It's still small in comparison to the numbers of the people that are disabled. It's still small compared to the numbers of people that actually exist in this country and the world. We need everyone to know that this is not our fight. This is your fight. This is the fight of generations. For generations, people have been paying into a system, in a contract that is being broken. This government is in breach of contract. This government is in breach of contract with every single one of us, past, present, and future. That contract is, they take our taxes, they take our national insurance contributions at source. And they like to tell us that only people in work are taxpayers, but from babies to pensioners, we are all taxpayers. People pay tax on VAT every time there's a purchase of something. You're paying VAT. That VAT is a tax. Yeah, there are taxes. There are stealth taxes everywhere, and those taxes lie most heavily on the poorest of the people. If you take into consideration your income and the tax, the poorer you are, the more tax you pay. That's the way it's designed. And the richer you are, the more you can tax avoid and pay nothing. Yeah, so big, huge corporations like Boots and Smiths and Amazon, and they all tax avoid to their heart's content. They pay as little as possible to their workers. Yeah, and their workers end up needing food banks, needing universal credit, needing benefits, because they're not being paid enough or having to take on second and third jobs to try and manage. And then the workers are vilified, and anyone who's on benefits, and the majority of people on benefits are in work. Inside our hospitals now we have food banks because even our hospital workers don't have enough to eat. People across the country are malnourished and hungry. They've just conducted a study of under fives, and found that our children are shrinking. They're not growing at the rate that they should be growing, and instead they're growing more obese because of the kind of horrible food that is being sold cheaply to poorer people. They can't afford to buy organic food. They can't afford to buy chemical-free food. And they're putting palm oil into everything. So the palm oil industry, the fossil fuel industry, all of these people are colluding in the murder, not just of our people, but of our planet and all of life on Earth. And it's all connected. Speaking of which, 1 second. Tita, mere full please. Sorry. So yeah, everything's interconnected and intersectional, and by intersectional I mean that people are being disadvantaged, and being disadvantaged for various reasons. So if you're a woman, if you're black, if you're brown, if you're disabled, if you're old, if you're a refugee, if you're an asylum seeker, all of these things are add and compound the amount of disadvantage that person experiences. And at the bottom of the intersectionality is people with disabilities, people with disabled children, people with disabled elders that they're caring for. And this was really brought home to the world when the Ukraine war started, when people started fleeing for their lives. The people who couldn't flee, and for once it was actually talked about in the news, only briefly, but it was spoken about, because disabled people and people with disabled children weren't able to. And that's what happens when there's a flood, when there's a fire, when there's a climate crisis, when there's a cost of living crisis, whatever the issue, the people who are being hit first and hardest are the people at the bottom of the heap. And that doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you're in the global south, you're more disadvantaged. Yeah. But in the global south, the people at the bottom of that is the people who are disabled, the people who've got disabled children, the people who've got care responsibilities for adults. And so this fight that DPAC have been fighting it's only since 2010 that DPAC have been in place, but long before DPAC, there was the fight for disability rights and human rights has been an ongoing issue, not just in this country but across the planet. And we need people to realize that we cannot have equality, we cannot have human rights, we cannot have dignity for any one of us if we're leaving the most marginalized and the most disadvantaged in that situation. We have to bring everyone up together and stand up for everyone together, otherwise we are lost. And at the moment we are lost in that the cost of living crisis was only affecting disabled people and the poorest of people, and now it's affecting the rest of the community. We've got millions more people, and now that it's reached millions of more people, the cost of living crisis is now something that they talk about. But for ages and ages, it's been hitting disabled people and other impoverished groups. In 2017, the United Nations Special Rapporteur came here and did a investigation into the UK's extreme poverty. Extreme poverty, and that extreme poverty they found was affecting over 17.5 million people, if I've got the figures right. But they were the poorest, so nobody actually mentioned it. But now that it's reached more of the working people who are actually on so much better salaries but still being hit by fuel poverty, by needing food banks, by needing food parcels, it suddenly becomes something that people are actually aware of. It is better late than never, but that war needs to keep. We need to understand that war that we're fighting is a war that is everybody's war, not just disabled people's. So in the stall there, I've got lots more information, and I'd like people to come along and pick up information and ask questions and see how you can personally get involved. But one of the things that I recommend is that everyone looks at Ellen Clifford's book. Ellen Clifford has written a book called is that Shelley? Ellen Clifford has written a book called The War on Disabled People, and I highly, highly recommend that you do actually look that up, find it in your library, do what you can to raise awareness and join the fight for justice, join the fight for humanity. Yesterday there was a big action outside Parliament. One second. Where's my blue folder, please, Scott?
Blue folder. Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday there was a big action outside Parliament, and it was to let this new government and Keir Starmer know that disabled people have been fighting the Tories and now will be fighting Labour if they forget disabled people, and the thing that and to fight their Labour in particular Keir Starmer support for bringing in a suicide bill. Lord Faulkner is going to be bringing in a new suicide bill next week, and so if you can get everyone to be aware of how assisted suicide is actually a really, really bad thing from the point of view of disabled people, in that already hundreds and thousands of us have died, and if we give them the assisted, if they legalize assisted suicide, that would just be another way of killing us off. I don't know if you know Liz Carr. She's an actress and an activist, disability rights activist, and she's just made a new documentary with the BBC. And if you can look that up, that's about assisted suicide as well, and why disabled people are so against allowing that to happen. So please join DPAC and fight that tooth and nail. We cannot afford to give them another way of killing us off. This is. Sorry. Yeah. When we did the action on Thursday, they were planning to do a more extended action, but they didn't do it because for several reasons, including the heat. It was just way too hot, but also bearing in mind that Roger Hallam had just been given a 5-year sentence, and the other people who were being sentenced at the same time have all been given 4 years. And what was their crime? Their crime was going onto a Zoom call, to talk about these issues and to say that we need to do something. And just talking about needing to do something was enough to get them in prison. He's been in prison for 5 years. We need to stand with Roger Hallam and get him released, and the other 4 too. And we need to stand with every political prisoner who's being silenced. And we can do it. We've done it for Julian Assange. It took a very long time to get him released, but it was people power. It was people power pressuring our governments to get our political prisoners released and stop silencing us. And so it's down to people power, collective action. And so I don't know how much direct action anyone has been involved in taking part in, but any direct action that you go to, if you go to a protest, if you go to a march, please be an advocate for disabled people. In that, go and see who's at the front of that march, who's at the front of that action. Make sure that if there's a march happening, disabled people are at the front, so they are setting the pace instead of being left behind. We're the ones being hit first and hardest. And we're the ones that are slowest in our marching often. So make sure that disabled people, whoever's organising it, they include disabled people in the design of it. So right at the start, before we even get on the streets, nothing about us without us. So don't forget us, firstly, and secondly, once you remember that we exist and that this is hitting us, this is our issue too, then talk to the disabled people's organisations like DPAC. Talk about how can we make this an accessible event. this space, for example, over here, how can we make it more accessible? Can we make sure that there's more seating that people who can't sit down on the floor can access? Yeah. So accessibility. James, you've been doing some huge work about accessibility at festivals. So just including little things like that, like having seating that people who've got arthritic knees who can't get down onto floor level have some kind of seating. So just keeping disabled people in the forefront of our minds is the first step in helping us fight this fight.
I've got a t-shirt on.
Not dead yet.
Where are we?
Roger, Scott, can you stand up and show us your t-shirt so everyone can see that? My camera see it too. Yeah, not dead yet. There's a campaign called Not Dead Yet, so sign up and join that. There's the DPAC campaign. There's what's it called? The Black Triangle. There's Inclusion London. There's so many different organisations. There's XR Disabled Rebels. Join and just in the local communities, in every place you go to, there's bound to be at least one little disability group. Sign up to them, join them. So we collectively add to that fight and tell people. The most important thing is tell people. It's word of mouth. But when millions of us are dying, and literally the last update that I'm going to add to my gravestone and my art display is the last figure that we've got is from UCL, and in that they found over 1 million people between 2010 and 2019. Over 1 million what they call premature deaths have occurred. That means people who weren't expected to die who have died. And this is before COVID, this is not including the COVID figures. Over 1 million. And so when that number of people are dying, bear in mind that even one extra death is not acceptable, but over 1 million are dying, and it's not in the papers, then we have to become the ones that are telling the truth, sharing that thing, and keeping on and sharing that until the truth is known by everyone. And once it's known by everyone, suddenly everything changes. So taking for example what's happening in Palestine, for over 75 years, huge atrocities have happened, huge numbers of people have been dying, millions have been displaced. But it's only in recent times that insufficient numbers actually know what is happening, and now across the planet, millions of people are saying, we are all Palestinian. You want to expunge Palestine from the map? We've just turned the world into Palestine. Yeah, the whole world is standing up for Palestine. But in Palestine, we've got a huge disability crisis, in that the number of people who are getting traumatized, the number of people who are being turned into amputees, the number of children who are being turned into amputees. The disability crisis over there is horrendous and huge, and we need to stand in solidarity with disabled people across the planet, not just here in the UK, because the same people who are killing off disabled people here are the same people killing off people in Palestine, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, and everywhere across the world. Wherever you go, wherever there's a problem, you can come back to London. London is at the heart of almost every single thing you see. We're the greenwashing capital of the planet. Where at the heart of London you've got the City of London, which doesn't even have to have answerable to the government of the UK, or it's an entity of its own. And the richest of the rich, and all the governments, they all go and meet in Davos every year, and they plan a long-term strategy. Brexit didn't just happen. Brexit happened because they wanted to bring in the social economic zones and the free ports, and the special economic zone. And they planned Brexit, and they made sure that Brexit happened no matter what, even if they got fined, even if they broke the law, and they broke the law, and they got fined. But when they get fined, who pays for it? We do. They took the money out of our money. So they don't care if they break the law, they don't care if they get fined. Yeah, but we need to care. We need to remember that it's our planet, it's our people, it's our lives that are at stake, and this is about everyone and everything. So I'm going to stop there for a second and put my petals on. 1 second. Yeah. I'm an artist and I make art installations, and there are 2 art installations out there. Please don't go and have a look at them, and please pick up some information. This is an installation I made for COP26 to show how everything that we care about, from social justice to climate justice, from disarmament to decolonization, all of it is interconnected and intersectional, and we can't solve any one issue. We can't deal with just disability rights without looking at human rights for everyone. We can't look at climate justice without social justice. So when we see it all, then we can fight back for all of it. And Deepak understand this. So Deepak and that every issue, wherever you go, whether it's fighting for guards on trains, without guards on trains, who are the people who are impacted the most? Disabled people. Yeah. Fighting for workers' rights, who are the most affected are the workers who are disabled, who have disabled relatives. So Deepak go and support all these different actions. What we need is for all these different communities to come and join us. So if you are part of a union, get your union to come and support disabled people. Ask your union why are they not supporting if they aren't. Yeah. And together we can change that if we remember that every time we speak, every time we do something, keeping an eye on what is happening and questioning things, making sure that our voice actually makes that change that we need. Hello. I'm talking about the war on disabled people and how we fight back. And I was saying that each of us has a voice, and I can come out and do what I can do. So I'm here talking to you, but I can never speak to the people you speak to. You can never speak to the people they'll speak to. But if we create those ripples of change, those ripples of change result in tsunamis of change. And part of fighting back is realizing how important every word and action of ours is. If we keep that and bear that in mind everywhere we go, and use whatever's your tools. I'm an artist, so I make art installations to try and convey the ideas that I'm talking about. But some of us are poets, some of us are singers, some of us are just social butterflies and like to have coffee mornings. So have a coffee morning, but then use that to actually engage people in conversations that really matter. Yeah, especially as women, we're taught to talk about fashion, to talk about hair colors, to talk about makeup, to talk about boob jobs and fitting into this conformist thing. And you're too thin, or you're too fat, or you're too tall, or you're too short, or you're too brown, or you're too white. You're never ever enough. And your focus and your energy is drawn into this. And really, it doesn't matter what the hell we look like. Yeah, I refuse to pluck the hairs growing on my chin. Yeah, because I refuse to comply with this image of what is beauty. Why is a man allowed to have his hair on his chin and I'm not? Yeah, why am I told that I'm ugly because I haven't removed it? Yeah, the beauty industry is the ugliest of ugliest. And the beauty and fashion industry, guess who they leave out the most? Disabled people. If you look at the film industry, you look at any industry. Yeah, the people that are least represented are disabled people. Black people in the film industry, yeah, they even in the past, they even used to black up white people rather than employ a black person. Yeah, or the only images we saw of black people were subservient. Yeah, and same with disabled people. You're there in the background. You're not actually somebody who can make a difference. You're not someone who actually matters. I go to lots of festivals. Almost every single festival, you can guarantee that almost every single stage will be inaccessible because they don't see disabled people as someone who has a voice, someone who has something to say, someone who can sing, someone who can tell a joke. They don't see us as their equal. We provide. So here's a viewing platform, so you can view what we think you want to view. But all the other stages, they won't even have a viewing platform because they don't think you want to see that. They've chosen what they want you to see, what they expect you to want to see. Yeah, and so disabled people need to be able to say, no, we're here. And you can't ignore us. And you can't use this assisted dying message of, we're giving you dignity in death. Hang on, give us dignity in life first. Stop starving us to death. Stop leaving us to become homeless. Stop saying that you're not worthy of treatment. When COVID happened, the Office of National Statistics found that 6 in 10, and they did this in their report, 6 in 10 of the COVID deaths were disabled people. But we only make up 20 to 25% of the population. But it's not our disabilities that killed us. It was government policy that killed us. They put do not resuscitate on the stamp, do not resuscitate onto all these disabled people's files. So when they got COVID, if there was a choice of who to give a ventilator, the ventilator was given to who they thought was worthy, people who got a life to live, yeah, and that's the non-disabled people. Disabled people, well, you're gonna die anyway. Your life is not as valuable. In fact, your life is worthless because you're worthless. They equate worthlessness with worthlessness. And how did we even get to the point where we do that? To the point where pensioners are now being told that unless they're working, they're worthless, and that their pensions are classed as benefits. They're not a benefit, they paid for it. They've worked their lives, they've put their money into the pension system, they've put their pension into the social security system, which is supposed to provide from birth, from cradle to grave, for anybody who needs support. Whether because you're pregnant and you have a baby to look after, whether you're out of work, whether you've been laid off work, whether you're disabled, whether you're a pensioner, whether you've just broken a leg and need to go to hospital. It doesn't matter. If we need, our social security system and our health system is supposed to be there to provide. Instead, they've taken our nationalized health service and turned it into a privatized system. They turned our social security system into a work and pensions thing. The department used to be called Department of Health and Social Security. And in that name, they told the entire population that the government had a responsibility to make sure for our health and our social security. They changed those words, and words matter. They changed those words to Department of Work and Pensions, knowing that now everyone's going to focus on work and pensions and not expect the government to provide the things that we're paying them to do. They're in breach of contract with us all. The contract is simple. We pay in, they pay out. They've stopped paying out. They now have a system of conditionality. When you sign up to get your benefits, the conditionality is they say jump and you jump. They say we're going to call you at any time, and if you don't reply to that phone call, we will sanction you. They say we will write to you, we'll call you for a meeting if you don't turn up. But they send out letters that are dated in the past for a meeting that's dated in the past, send it out to you in the future and say, oh, but you didn't turn up for that, so we're going to sanction you. And the sanctions can be for up to 3 years. It doesn't matter if you've got children, it doesn't matter if you've got carer responsibilities, it doesn't matter what. They can sanction you for up to 3 years. That means no money, leave you with nothing. And as a result, people are literally dying. And the numbers of people who are dying, it's just absolutely shocking. My art installation out there has some of the figures. The latest figure is over 1 million. over 1 million people who died, and this is not just disabled people. These are disabled people. These are disabled people, people from deprived areas, people who are destitute, who are not getting the treatment and support and the food that they need, and so they're dying in what they UCL calls premature death. In that it's a death that you weren't expected to die then. I'm talking of people of when you weren't expected to die. Homelessness has become everywhere, and the number of homeless people who are dying on our streets has skyrocketed. The average age of a homeless person at death now is 43 for a man and 41 for a woman. 43. Even the most impoverished countries have a longer lifespan. Here we are in the richest country of all, or one of the richest. We were the 5th richest. Under the Tories, we become the 6th richest because they've crashed and